The following podcast has been paid for by Perched on the Top Rope.
This is Impact Wrestling Moose, and you're listening to Perched on the Top Rope.
Welcome, everyone, to Perched on the Top Rope. It's me. I am your host, former Dirt Sheet writer Lee Walker. You can find old interviews and articles at sportskita.com, therichest.com, thesportster.com, and you can also find me where it all began at Ringside News. Speaking of Ringside News, Justin, as I have my co-host here, Justin Largertoe, youtube.com/unjustin we trust, the Perched correspondent.
What's up, everybody?
Steve Carrier, the owner of Ringside News, is stepping away from the day-to-day operations. I did bring this up on facebook.com/perched on the top rope that I would talk about this. And Justin, I don't know if you saw it, but from the account of Ringside News, Steve was tweeting at Soraya AEW there. I probably pronounced the name wrong, but whatever.
No, you actually did it right. Good job.
Oh, wow. I've been pronouncing it wrong, so I'm quite shocked I got it right. I'm notorious for that, especially if you follow us with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
That's why we didn't review Wrestle Kingdom on this show, everybody.
Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, Wrestle Kingdom's not bad. It's just me with their names. It's not exactly a good time when you're in this field. So he tweeted at her like some really nasty stuff. He's known to attack others in the field. You know, he's notorious for going after Sean Ross Sapp. He's had a meltdown over the past few years, and he apologized to her. He's apologized to all the colleagues in a tweet, and he's stepping down from day-to-day operations. Justin, we have known Ringside News to be like one of those National Enquirer type magazines where you think it's all a bunch of load of crap. And they tweet out ridiculous stuff. He goes on wild spurts. It's a shame the way he's acted over the years. I worked for him back in 2018. And I can say back in 2018, he wasn't the way he was now, like how we've seen him on Twitter. We actually had an issue where I had interviewed Chris Chavez Tatanka for Ringside News. And a couple of websites actually stole the article, and like we went after them over it. And that's where I had seen like the malicious side of him a little bit, but it's also like you're not giving credit where credit was due in their articles is what was going on. But a lot of people think he doesn't have connections in the business, and I can 100% tell you he does. I won't go into detail or anything, but there was at that time there was some DMs with Chris Jericho going on over a photo that had been leaked out by the dirt sheets, and yeah, that's as far as that'll go. Anyway, the only thing I can say is I'm glad that Steve's gonna step away and get the help he needs, but at the same time, Justin, he kind of gave us some comical stuff, but the way he's been lately has not been comical at all. It's been rather sad to see someone's mental health deteriorate the way that has. So as someone who used to work for Steve, I wish him the best and hope that, everything goes well for him.
Yeah, like I said, Steve more personally than I do from Ringside News. But I am no stranger to all the tweets that have been put out from that Twitter account. I see a few of them throughout my Facebook feed at least a few times a day. So I'm definitely aware of the Saraya situation and the back and forth with her and her brother. And, yeah, I mean, good on the guy for going to get help. Hopefully it works out for him.
Yeah, and speaking of help and some health scares here, Justin, Jerry Lawler had a stroke. He was found in his driveway, face down. And he's been taken to Florida, where we did an update. I think it was the facebook.com/perch on the top rope that he is going to make a full recovery. His speech is limited. He has a long road ahead of him, but we posted photos. He was with Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart went to visit him. And you could see Jimmy showing Jerry old photos of them, in wrestling related stuff. Very, very cool to see that. We hope nothing but the best for Jerry. Scary situation there, to have something like that happen and to not have anyone around you right away. Like, could have been a lot worse than what happened.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm glad to hear everything is going good with the King so far. It hasn't been too long since we last saw him. He was just doing commentary for that Imperium, Seth Rollins, Street Profits 6-man tag on the 30th anniversary of Raw show just 2 weeks ago. But King's had scary situations like this. We're all aware of the heart attack that took place in the third hour of Raw, just 11 years ago, not even. Even the King couldn't handle a third hour of Raw at that time, but everything turned out for the best in that situation. I hope all the best for the King in this situation. It's great to hear he's doing a lot better.
Yeah, I do too. And, we've been fortunate enough to actually interview Jerry the King Lawler when we were at the new show down in Poughkeepsie, New York. What a trip that was.
Oh, yes.
Man, oh man. That was a good interview. We thank Jerry Lawler for everything he's done for us, and we hope nothing but the best for him. Wrestling has taken quite the hit health-wise, ladies and gentlemen. But Justin, let's get into some wrestling. I mean, there's no easy way to transition from that, so let's just
Yeah, man.
go right.
Let's get right into it. Like you said, we're still on the road to WrestleMania, going strong, and I think the best way to get into this, and Lee is pointing at the sign. I know you guys can't see it, but he's pointing at that WrestleMania sign just like I am every day. But the best way to get into it is with the biggest story, at least in the WWE right now, involving the WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, formerly known as Sami Uso, formerly known as the Honorary Uce, formerly known as the Master Strategist, formerly known as Usi in the Sky with Diamonds, Sami Zayn. So we had the continuation from the Royal Rumble this past Friday on SmackDown. Roman Reigns came out to address the status of the Bloodline. Jey Uso has not been seen since the Royal Rumble. And we saw Sami Zayn come out in a hood, attack Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns got the upper hand at one point, tried to get a chair. And to my surprise, at least this early in the feud, I'm surprised they did this spot where Sami Zayn speared Roman Reigns. And, the crowd popped. Sami Zayn told Roman, I've never wanted anything from you, but now I want something, and I want that WWE Universal Championship. And then the match was made for Elimination Chamber in Montreal. So we're getting ready for what may be the most fun match of the year in WB. At least with the crowd that they're going to have in Montreal for this match.
And we're normally spoiler free is the way to be, isn't that right, Justin?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to spoil something, and I apologize.
Yeah.
We talked about this a couple shows back when I made my return. However, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to spoil what the chair looks like because we've already seen it. We saw it on the printed out page before it even made it onto like an actual chair. You have the the WWE logo with the Elimination Chamber, all that as like its background and everything. Justin, who do you think is on the chair?
Would that be Sami Zayn?
I would believe you're right.
Oh, I was gonna say Mantar.
No, it's not Mantara. I'm very sorry to disappoint anyone on that one. I'm disappointed in that one.
Couldn't fit all that beef on that chair. Oh man.
But Sami Zayn fans, you'll be able to sit on his face while at the Elimination Chamber. So enjoy. I really liked how they did the spot where they like paid tribute to the Shield when Sammy hit Roman with the chair, and then later we see vice versa, just like how we saw it with Roman and Seth in that when Seth Rollins ultimately turned, when we kind of saw Sammy turn, just like Seth Rollins in the Shield moment right there. The only difference is Sammy got the hell beaten out of him afterwards.
Right.
But I thought it was a really cool spot. Like if you go back and watch it, you can see a lot of similarities between that at the Royal Rumble when that all broke up. But seeing Sammy hit it was a good spear, man. I thought it was a great spear.
Definitely. I said the same thing when I first saw it.
Like I popped. Like it was a good spot. So ultimately we get a match now at the Elimination Chamber, which is next week, Justin. So we'll be doing our predictions next week for that. So fans, make sure you tune in no matter where you listen, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitch, Podbean, Podbay, Red Circle. It's Perched on the Top Rope. That's what we're doing next week. So we know this is most likely, I'm going to assume, like the main event, Justin. We have other matches on the card. There are 2 chamber matches, one in which with the women, you will get a shot at Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, which we have already found out that Monday Night Raw's Rhea Ripley has challenged Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, Justin, who is qualified for the Women's Elimination Chamber for a shot at the Raw Women's Championship?
So for the Women's Elimination Chamber, they kind of went, Royal Rumble 1997 style with this. Ironically, seeing as the Rumble was in the Alamo Dome that year, and in the Rumble was in the Alamo Dome this year. But they chose the last 4 of the Women's Rumble, obviously minus Rhea Ripley. So you had Raquel Rodriguez, Liv Morgan, Asuka. Everyone's calling her fucking Kana, and I can't even keep up. It's still Asuka. Just don't listen to me. And Nikki Cross. And then we had 2 qualifying matches on Raw and SmackDown over the course of the last week. Natalia has qualified. That's a given with them being in Canada and Montreal. And the returning Carmella is the 6th participant in that match and rounds out the field.
Dude, I gotta ask, can they please give a gimmick to Carmella and fucking stick with it? How many times do we get she's the Staten Island princess, and then she's all glammed up in dresses, and then she's back to being like a hood rat type, fucking looking like Mickey Mouse on the street with freaking crop top and bell bottoms, for crying out loud. I can't deal with it. They changed her so many damn times. It's not even funny. You know who else they do it to also is Lacey Evans. Holy crap. Decide what you're doing with her. We got a sob story that my life was terrible, blah, blah, blah. I went into the Marines, and now all of a sudden she's acting like a badass heel again. Are we supposed to give her sympathy? Or are we supposed to hate her fucking guts? Which is it? I want to know. I'm serious. Like, I'm like the Backstreet Boys right now. Quit playing games with my heart. With my heart. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The Lacey Evans situation, and we weren't even planning on talking about this. Lacey Evans situation, they just don't know where they want to go with her. Ever since she came back from her pregnancy and having the kid, and as you mentioned, they were airing those segments on SmackDown where we're supposed to believe we're having sympathy for this woman, but the plan was to bring her back as a heel. Don't tell me how that works, but okay. And then they just decided, hey, we're going to take her off TV for a few months. Now she's doing the Cobra Clutch. Like, where is this coming from?
Like, I mean, what's next? Hey, when Marine 13 comes out, I think we know who's being casted for it. All right. Anyway, I had to go down that rabbit hole. It's driving me nuts. It didn't start out with a kiss because it didn't happen like this. It started with Carmella. I think she's a fella. Let's keep moving on. So who we have the United States championship match being decided in the Elimination Chamber as well. Obviously, we're not getting the undisputed Universal Championship as a Elimination Chamber match, since we know that it's Roman and Sami. Justin, I gotta ask first off, do you think doing the United States Championship in there makes sense, or should have gone with the more higher tier of the Intercontinental Championship?
I mean, I think it's a situation where you can go either way. I don't mind them doing it with the U.S. title. If the rumored match does end up taking effect with a triple threat with, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, then I do think it's probably the safest way to go for the U.S. title chamber at Elimination Chamber, just so you don't have everyone, in the ring at the same time, and, save that for WrestleMania is kind of how I'm looking at it.
That makes sense, but I mean that's really a 2-on-1 handicap match, right? Because what is Drew McIntyre and Sheamus's tag team, or what was their tag team name before stuff happened?
Banger Bros.
The Banger Bros.
Don't Google that. You know what? Let me say something quick. All this talk a few years ago about, oh, we can't put China in the Hall of Fame because kids can Google her and see all the stuff she's done in the past. Yet in the same fucking month in this company this year, we've had the Banger Bros as a tag team, and we've had Raw as XXX.
I mean, the Raw XXX you can understand with the Roman numerals, but I mean, come on, like if realistically, if they don't come out with condoms of their own and it just says Raw is XXX on it with the logo, they're totally missing out on a great marketing ploy right there. You're welcome, WWE, for that. However, the other Banger Bros. I mean, how many times? I mean, at least I pay attention. There's a particular porn company that loves tweeting at wrestling.
Yes.
And I've also noticed there's quite a few porn stars that like tweeting at wrestlers. We know that a certain wrestler, we won't name names, Dolph Ziggler, is usually spotted at the AVN Awards, which is Adult Video Entertainment Awards, ladies and gentlemen. Dolph Ziggler. So, I mean, there's also Matt Riddle, who's literally dating a porn star now while he's in rehab. Let's not forget that one. Which I mean, good for him. I mean, if you like your girl getting banged out by things as big as my forearm, which is fans is actually pretty big because I do work out. Good for you. Good for you. Oh, wow. Anyway, Justin, who do we have in the United States Championship Elimination Chamber?
Yeah, so for the U.S. title Elimination Chamber, you obviously have the United States champion Austin Theory, Seth frickin' Rollins, Johnny Gargano, the newest addition to the Raw roster with Bronson Reed, Damian Priest from the Judgment Day, and the one that I kind of find the most interesting in this match, from the Street Profits, Montez Ford. And I kind of see him in this match as kind of, testing him and seeing how he'll do with a singles run. We've heard, it hasn't really been brought up recently, but we were hearing more towards the end of last year to expect a draft after WrestleMania. And, it's kind of coming up around that time. So, Angelo Dawkins, he's been getting himself into better shape. He's taking off the jersey when he wrestles now. He's improving his in-ring style, and hopefully that works out for him, because for the longest time, it would be worrisome for that man if Montez Ford were to leave him. But I feel like Ford being in this match is a way to test him as a single star.
I mean, let's not forget, he also spent a lot of time in NXT, and the fact that he didn't get cut at any point was also surprising. Let's be honest. But Angelo Dawkins has improved so much that I'm actually shocked that like PWI, like their 500 list, didn't recognize him and like put him in like most improved category type deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's flying over the top rope now. I think he's recognized because I'm sure they're friends and they talk. So I'm sure he knows that they want to push Montez for a singles run. And if Montez goes somewhere, that Bianca's going to follow. So I would expect to see Angelo be the one be drafted somewhere, if anything.
Right.
Which if they split that tag team up, it's inevitable. But at the same time, what happens when the Usos drop the titles? I don't think they have enough tag teams to fully keep the division going. We've already watched the Usos defeat like every tag team out there, but the problem I have is I hate watching tag teams get split up. We always know that there's a Shawn Michaels to the Marty Jannetty. We know that aspect is usually true. I don't see that really being the case with this tag team. I see Montez going far in a singles run. I see Angelo doing well in a singles run too, because he can talk on a mic. He can work. He's good. Whether or not they give him the same sort of push as Montez Ford will be a whole different story, which I'm sure that him knowing has pushed him to work out harder, change his in-ring ability, and being like, all right, I need to buckle down because if I'm losing this guy, I'm going to be in trouble. How many times have we seen it where tag teams, Justin, break up and only one star flourishes and the other one just drifts?
Oh, it's all the time, especially, under the Vince McMahon regime, when Vince was in charge of creative, and, those days may not be gone for good, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks, but, most recent kind of thing I can think of similar to this is, Heavy Machinery, Otis and Tucker.
That's the exact tag team I had in my head.
Right.
Tag team. Especially with Tucker, because what's he doing?
He's just dropped off the face of the planet completely.
Yeah. So, very shocking. So if they break up, I mean, let's not forget though, Angelo Dawkins had a qualifying match against Damian Priest and lost. I also see this as there's a lot of younger talent. I mean, maybe not so young because Damian Priest is actually older.
Mm-hmm.
He's more around my age. But the thing is this is like breakout stars of the company that are in this, aside from like Seth Rollins.
Right.
It's a more newer generation. I'm expecting to see a lot of spots, a lot of big spots in this. I think you're going to see some shocking eliminations, as we always do, but nothing to me will be more shocking than Santino Marella in the Elimination Chamber, which was great when that happened. Hit a hell of a year that year, actually, now that you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get into predicting who we think would win this because we're doing that next week.
Right.
But those are some great names.
Yeah.
Great names.
Should be a banger.
Speaking of bangers, NXT just had Vengeance Day recently, and we saw had some interesting things happen there, huh, Justin?
Yeah, so as Lee was just mentioning, we had Vengeance Day last week, NXT's first, not takeover, but premium live event back on the road. I'll just say this, the feeling of being out of the Performance Center, in the, whatever you want to call it, the NXT Dome, or whatever you want to call what you see every Tuesday night with NXT. It definitely made it feel like a bigger deal, actually being in a arena at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. Very much like the main roster setup with the big screen, and they had the LED barricade. They didn't really use it too much. They just kind of flashed the NXT logo on there all night. But it definitely made the show feel like a bigger deal than it usually does. It's fine with them doing TV, in the Performance Center every Tuesday, but for these premium live events, they definitely need to be a permanent thing on the road.
Yeah, I agree because it's different watching NXT from their normal arena as opposed to being on the road. Justin, they had what, 14,000 people at that event?
Yeah, it was definitely a packed house, and you know, contribute that to whatever you want. I mean, the New Day was on the show; they're a main roster act. I'm sure they moved quite a few tickets, just their names being on the show in general. But it's been a long time since the days of takeovers and selling out buildings the weekends of big WB events. So this was good to see.
Yeah, it really was. And let's break down the card real quick, who won, and just give our thoughts. And then we'll go into some things that we saw happen on NXT this week.
Yeah, so the show started off with definitely, I would say, the best match of the night. The North American Championship, Wesley retaining over Dijak. Wesley has bounced back tremendously from losing his tag team partner in the last year. We were just talking about just a minute ago with, the Street Profits and Heavy Machinery. Once you kind of lose your tag partner, it's a whole new world, and it's really hard to kind of come back from that. But Wesley I think, has done a very good job. He's held the North American Championship for about 4 months now, and he put on a great performance here with Dijak, who was another one I'm glad to see is washing that retribution stink off him, and really making his way on becoming a star in this company. But one of the biggest notes coming out of the match was Dijak, and they got a great shot of it after the match. Dijak's finger literally came out of place, and it was bent completely in the opposite direction, which looked absolutely disgusting. By the sound of it, I guess they were able to just pop it back into place, but man, that was nasty to see.
Justin, have you ever jammed your finger? Like, have you ever heard that term, jamming your finger?
Yeah,
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
I'm sure I have at one point.
Okay. I've done that a lot. I haven't done it in a very long time, thankfully. But when I've done that, it hurts like hell. So like, I've broken toes, but to break a finger or something like that, I can't imagine how that feels. Like I said, I've jammed a finger and I'm like, what the hell, it hurts. You can't bend it for a little while. That did not look fun at all. And you got to finish the match. No, you can't be like Sin Cara.
Right. You
Call
know
for
what?
the ref to
When
stop
I
the match.
saw Dijak's finger, that was the first man that popped into my head was Sin Cara.
Poor Sin Cara, Botch Cara, wherever you are, we thank you. But yeah, that was a pretty nasty spot and didn't look fun, but God, all right, I want to move on from that. I'm starting to get
Yeah.
sick.
So we had some more other notable things on the show. The NXT Women's Tag Titles, if you remember those exist. They were won by Fallon Henley and Kiana James. We had, in my opinion, an underwhelming 2 out of 3 falls match with Carmelo Hayes and Apollo Crews, and that's nothing against those guys because we know both of them are great, but I don't know. The match was just very slow. It was long. I don't know
It
what.
felt Yeah, it felt drawn out, like too drawn out, especially for two workers like that. Like I felt like that should have been more of a fast-paced, heavy hitting action style match, especially coming from Apollo Crews, who's trained by Mr. Hughes, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, Especially having been on the main roster for so long and having done everything he's done. We did see his Commander Aziz actually attack Apollo after the match, though, which was pretty shocking. But that match itself was eh. And honestly, as far as the tag team, the girls who won the match, Justin, I don't know if I like missed a spot, but did they even have a ring entrance? Because like when I watched, they were just there.
Yeah. They did have ring entrances for them.
All right, I must have walked away. That's all I can think of. Because when I came back,
They were just in the ring.
yeah. But I mean, to be honest, it also didn't help. I didn't know who they were. Fans, if you know me and you know this show, I actually don't watch NXT. Uh, Usually Justin and I are doing a pre-recorded show perched on the top shelf. So I miss NXT, and I actually don't make up watching it. I try to keep up with like some of the names that are there, but we've been through this a million times on the show. There's just so much wrestling, you can't cover everything. So I
Right.
actually opt out to not watch NXT. Everyone's told me it's gotten better and this and that, and that's great. I don't have the time. I have other stuff I'm doing. Trying to finish Mr. Hughes's book, house projects, trying to book interviews with wrestlers, things, doing the other shows that we do. There's just not enough time in the world for it, unfortunately. But yeah, Justin, the two that won the championships, I didn't know who they were. Didn't know who they were at all. I thought they were like, I was literally gonna text in the group, why is there a job match on here? I like they didn't look unison to me, like nothing, like I didn't get it, but like I was listening to commentary, and commentary made it seem like the team that won, they were having problems already. So I was like, great, how long do they hold these belts for?
Right. Yeah. So the storyline is, did you saw Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen on the outside of the ring, right, with Kiana James and Fallon Henley?
Yeah, and I don't know who they are either.
Okay, so to kind of wrap it up and give you a little bit of backstory on this. So Brooks Jensen, Bull Buchanan's son, as I've said to you in the past, and you didn't believe me, but it is Bull Buchanan's son. Brooks Jensen, his character on TV is he's very desperate and he's a virgin. So Kiana James kind of has the hots for him, or so he thinks. Uh, oh man, this is more complicated now that I think about it. So, okay, Fallon Henley, Kiana James's tag team partner, she owns a bar, right? Her family owns a bar and a ranch somehow. I don't know how this is all working out. She has horses, is pretty much her character. Um, so they had a match. Winner would get the bar. Fallon Henley kept the bar, and then Kiana James is still with Brooks Jensen, and then he wants them to team together so they can get along. And now they're the champions, and that I don't even know if I described that correctly, but that's pretty much the best I can do.
Okay. Yeah, that's like following like High School Musical storyline or Glee or some shit. That's too much for me.
Yeah, I
So that's
tried.
way too.
I tried.
Yeah, we just need basic storylines here, guys. It's NXT. Like they got half the ratings that the main roster has, and less at times. So don't complicate things. Jesus.
Right. So, well, I tried. Maybe I
Like
can.
I'm
Maybe I
now
can.
I'm waiting. Now I'm waiting for like the third cousin removed in some sort of like, that's my brother's uncle cousin type deal going on.
Right.
Like the fucking Godwins are gonna come out of nowhere, type deal. And the Godwins are like their uncles or some shit. I can see it happening. Oh man. All right. Anyway.
Yeah. So we talked about Carmelo and Apollo already, obviously. From there we had the four-way for the NXT Tag Team titles. The New Day defending the titles against Gallus. The best tag team in NXT right now, the best tag team in all of WB, and the two tastiest snacks in all of WB, Kit Wilson and Elton Prince, pretty deadly. Yes,
Why are
boy.
you referring to them as a snack? Do you got a crush on them?
That anyway. So that
I
also in
see
the
them
match
cheeks
was
blushing.
Andre Chase University, Andre Chase and Duke Hudson. Gallus was able to defeat the New Day and the rest in the travesty, which should have been pretty deadly, regaining those NXT Tag Team Championships. No boy. Uh, but the thing that was most surprising to me in all this was the New Day actually took the fall in this match, which, with it being a four-way, you would imagine. I was definitely expecting somebody from Chase U to, eat the pin in this match to give Gallus the win, but Xavier Woods took the pin, so good on the New Day for putting new talent over.
Yeah, and I was just about to say that. It was Xavier Woods that took the pinfall. Good to see that like a tag team like that can be like, hey, us winning, doesn't do anything, but you guys are three newer teams. Like we can afford it. That could have been like a big make or break for one of them teams there. And for Gallus to win, I'm excited for, because we lost NXT UK. we know it's like being repackaged,
Mm-hmm.
but we lost people, and we lost quite a few people in NXT UK that got released, and some surprising names among them, which was pretty shocking in itself. That we saw some like Trent Seven. Like, no, did you see that coming?
I feel like the Trent Seven release was more due to his age, because he is kind of in that late 30s, early 40s kind of bracket.
Yeah, but I mean, it was still shocking because he was one of the main
Yeah, he
guys.
was like one of the first 4 or 5 guys that they brought in for that NXT UK brand.
Yeah, so to me, I thought it was nice to see them win, because I didn't honestly. I would have been right there with you that it was either going to be the New Day retaining, or they were going to lose them back to Pretty Deadly. Which, I mean, I wouldn't have liked, but it is what it is.
What do you mean you wouldn't have liked that?
I would have liked that as much as you like Danhausen being the #1 seller in merchandise for AEW.
I'm just gonna move on now. But yeah, Gallus is the new NXT Tag Team Champions. And you just brought up the NXT UK ending and everything kind of dissolving into NXT what it is now. Honestly, I think it was for the better, because now that we have these experienced veterans who kind of were in NXT UK, mixing in with what we had in this new version of NXT, not the rainbow fucking NXT, whatever you want to call it, but the NXT that was full of inexperienced talent, people just getting on TV for the first time. I feel like it's meshing a lot better now, especially with it's not the rainbow brand. It's back to kind of black and gold, but not really. And I think it works now. I think it's definitely improving.
I heard Skittles was coming out with their own package of NXT Skittles. Taste the rainbow.
Get ready for NXT Stand and Deliver. You'll have the Skittles match.
Man, don't get me started, because that Mountain Dew pitch black match, I want to save that for another time. Save that for another time. We'll save that for next week when we get into pro wrestling and the evolving change of product placement, commercials, and sponsored matches.
Yeah.
Make sure you tune in next week as we talk about that. Anyway, it comes out with NXT. We have a few more things happen, Justin, and I want to talk about this one spot.
Yeah.
That happened on NXT. We have Bayley bringing back her talk show. Ding dong, hello. And she has Toxic Attraction on, who had just lost the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. And when I was a kid, the talk show was Brutus Beefcake's barbershop. And he had the Rockers on, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Now, they were going through a rough patch. Kind of like Toxic Attraction. And, it's a barbershop. You got your barber chair, you got your barber poles with the red and the white spinning and the light. And you got your glass. Marty talks, Shawn talks, they're all good. Shake hands, hug, raise each other's hands. Super kick to the face, Shawn Michaels to Marty Jannetty. Shawn takes Marty Jannetty, throws Marty Jannetty through the glass. Marty Jannetty's bleeding. He's injured, and we don't see him for a little while. This was literally the same thing, just with the women.
Oh, yeah, complete carbon copy. This had Shawn Michaels' hands all over it.
So, we see, everything's good, and then boom! Gigi takes a super kick, gets slammed into a door, and then kicked again.
Correction, she was not slammed into the door. She tried to jump through the door to escape.
Okay, well, Thank you for that correction.
I'm just saying, take your beating like a real woman, you know?
So tries to escape, gets kicked again. I mean, that had the barbershop 1991 vibes all over again, dude.
Yeah, and
1000%.
you know, unfortunately for Gigi Dolan in this situation, she was slammed into a door where it's supposed to, you know, fly open on the other side, but the door opens from the opposite side. So the door didn't fucking fly open. So what does JC Jane do? She kicks Gigi Dolan right in the fucking head to break this door open, and it still didn't really break open. She kicked her right in the fucking face, man. Oh my god. It was bad.
They did not plan that door spot right. Someone did not think that one through with the door. Should have turned it around.
Right.
However, though, Gigi did post a photo of her face, and she is pretty beat up. She's got all sorts of like red marks all over the side of her face from the door, getting kicked. Ouch.
Yeah, I could hear the impact with the door, and that was not good.
Now, Justin, this was not the only thing that happened on NXT. I'll let you take this next spot because this was pretty shocking for fans to have happen too.
Yeah, so on NXT, we also saw a return of the former NXT UK champion, Ilya Dragunov. He interfered in the Carmelo Hayes JD McDonough match. The reason for this is because JD McDonough put Ilya Dragunov on the shelf just back in October following the Halloween Havoc premium live event. We haven't seen Dragunov since, but he's back, and he chased JD McDonough. I keep wanting to call him Jordan Devlin because that was his fucking name beforehand. JD McDonough is a fucking terrible name, by the way.
You quit changing names.
I get it, but it's JD McDonough. Oh my god. Anyway, so Ilya Dragunov chases JD McDonough out for the crowd. I would imagine they're probably going to have a match at the Stand and Deliver Premium Live event WrestleMania weekend. Probably with a stipulation tacked onto it to, make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, you bring up Carmelo Hayes too. We see that he's going to be in a NXT Championship feud with Braun Breaker at the end of Braun Breaker's match at Vengeance Day, which he won against Grayson Waller. Still the champ. Carmelo came out, and that's how the show ends. They're staring off at each other. Ooh, stare down. Like, what's Braun gonna do? He's literally on top of the cage at the opposite end. Like,
do a flip.
Yeah, we weren't gonna see anything, but we had the stare down from a distance. That's gonna be a fun match, though. Braun Breaker's a hell of a wrestler. Carmelo's done a fantastic job, even though his match that night was. It is what it is.
Right.
There's one thing I do want to talk about before we move on to another company. Cody and Paul Heyman had one hell of a promo on Monday Night Raw. Justin, what did you think of that?
Okay, so anyone who did not see the promo segment with Heyman and Cody Rhodes on Monday, Cody Rhodes came out as usual, and he's got to do a lot less of this going into WrestleMania because I worry fans may just turn on it like they did in AEW, where Cody Rhodes comes out and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and everything's great. And remember the fucking when he had that feud with Anthony Ogogo in AEW, and it's like the American and the foreigner, and Cody Rhodes cut a promo leading into it, and he's like, I have a black wife and this, that, and the other. It's like Cody Rhodes ended racism, and he's got to stop that. Like, not do it as much going into WrestleMania. But it started with that, and then we got Paul Heyman coming out. Cody told a story about Paul booking Dusty for not WCW. Oh my god, for ECW. And it really helped Dusty gain his confidence back. They talked for a little bit longer, and then it kind of ended with Paul saying that he spoke to Dusty before he died, and Dusty told Paul that Cody was his favorite son. And, Dustin's kind of in the shadows. We're not going to mention him, but that Cody was his favorite son, but Roman Reigns is the son that he always wanted. And, Cody got in Paul's face and he said, I'm taking that title from your man at WrestleMania. So shots have been fired going into the Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns feud for WrestleMania this year.
So what I really like about this, Justin, is when I worked at Ringside News, I actually had the opportunity to work with Dustin Rhodes, aka Goldust, at the time, because he was in WWE. And we actually talked about Dusty in ECW. It was actually my last question. And I had asked him his thoughts on his father going to ECW. And first I'll say what he said about his brother, because at the time, Cody wasn't in WWE anymore, this and that. About how often he talks to his brother. Just about every week we talk. We have good conversation about what he's doing and how proud I am, how proud Dad would be. I put it there as much as possible because he's my brother. He's my half brother, but he's my brother. I love him. He's blood. He's doing a great job, and he's doing it on his own feet without the big machine behind him. We're seeing what Cody Rhodes can do business-wise, and he's making some great business decisions. He will be back, though. We all come back. This WWE is the place to be. Now, the other thing that was asked was if he wanted to be something outside the Rhodes name. Because as you know, Cody has really been pushing, for the Rhodes to win the WWE Championship because it's never been done. Dusty had been a multiple-time tag team champion and Intercontinental champion, and same with Cody. But he says, no, I always wanted to be the son of Dusty Rhodes, the American dream. Those are big shoes to fill. They'll never be filled. But I think I've done a good job carrying on his legacy. Cody has done a great job carrying on his legacy, and we will continue to do that and uphold the Rhodes name as best as possible, And then I'd asked, what his thoughts were on his father being in ECW from 99 to 2000. And kind of just like Cody had said, it was a rough time for our family right there. As Dad liked to put it, we live on hard times. Well, he was having hard times right there. He went to ECW, and that's us supporting our family. My dad and I grew up in the era where if you made $1, you spent $2, and we always said, we'll make it later. Well, that catches up to you. You got to really take care of your family and put some money away. So essentially what, when I heard the whole reminiscence of them talking about Dusty and ECW, all I kept thinking to myself was that interview I had done with Goldust. Fans, if you want to catch more of that, I'll be posting those on facebook.com/perched on the top rope. I've unfortunately don't have the audio anymore. I lost some things on my computer in a crash, and that was unfortunately one of the things that was lost. However, I still have him with our show opener, which I was able to save somehow. But yeah, I'll post clippings of the articles and stuff. And unfortunately, we know that Dustin is also going to, apparently seems like, retire this year. He made that kind of evident on Twitter. But, going back to Cody and Paul Heyman, hell of a promo, especially from a man who came from the land of extreme and defied what wrestling should be, coming from a wrestling family and a second generation star who, along with his dad, maybe wasn't supposed to be in the position that they got and are out here to really prove themselves as a wrestling family and to prove that legacy. And we've seen it try to be done time and time again. What's left of the Hart family is Natalia Neidhart. Teddy is out of his mind. Davey Boy Smith Jr. is still wrestling. The last time he was in WWE, he got to work a dark match, or he worked a match on main event, and they released him. Didn't even stand a chance again, which is sad. Tyson Kidd's gone. He's a producer, can't wrestle anymore. His neck. You know, with the Flares, you got Charlotte still wrestling. Reed passed away. And Dave retired a long time ago. You got the Von Erichs. Their family was cursed. Holy hell. And they got a movie coming out, which is pretty cool. But we also saw that outside of that, you know, the Von Erich boys of Carrier over in MLW doing the best they can. You got the Anawahis, who are the biggest family. The Rotundas, the Steiners. The list goes on and on, Justin. And I've brought this up before when I've interviewed Samu, when I've interviewed LA Smooth, who was also known as Alofa in WWF in the early 90s. And I'd ask them their opinion on if there should be a WWE legacy or, you know, family wing to the Hall of Fame. And Justin, what do you think their answer was?
I would probably say yes.
Oh, they did. 100%. That, in my opinion, you know, they have a legacy wing. You have the main Hall of Fame. You have the Warrior Award. There's so many different families. And now we're even seeing more. Roddy Piper's daughter is wrestling. We've got third generation superstars out there. There's a lot going on, and I was just something I'd love to see. And this promo, like, to me, like, reminded me of all that stuff that I think that we should see. You know, because Cody's always talking about family and this and that. And if wrestling is family, why don't we have a wrestling family wing Hall of Fame, you know, for the families that have been, you know, part of this business, and that's all they know. You know, that's
Right.
all they know. So I'd love to see something like that. And this promo was great. It was awesome. If you're one of the fans who was lucky enough to pre-order the WWE Legends, Paul Heyman, I do not like you because I did not get one.
Yeah, me either. Fuck you guys who got to Paul before we did.
Yeah, all of you. Frick off. Anyway, Justin, why don't we switch from WWE and we go to that other company, AEW.
Let's do it. Let's talk Dynamite.
Man, I'll let you lead this.
Okay. So I'll start by saying it was a fun episode of Dynamite. They dubbed it Championship Fight Night. They had a few championship eliminator matches. MJF versus Konosuke Takeshita, or as MJF would call him, Takeshita, was very good in the opener. MJF really impressed me by, you know, landing on his feet off of a fucking flip from the top rope. Not something I ever expected from MJF, but he did that, and that impressed me for a man who only wrestles about 7 times a year or so. But we had that, and then we had Jamie Hayter defeating the Bunny in a championship eliminator match. Bryan Danielson and Roosh had a great match in the middle of the show. The Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega retained the Trios championships over AR Fox and Top Flight. And I'm really liking the trio of AR Fox and Top Flight. I think they work really well together, especially with teams like Death Triangle and the Elite, as we saw this past week. But let's talk about the main event, which is kind of where the show really fell flat for me. The AEW World Tag Team Championships were on the line. The Acclaimed defended against whatever you want to call them. The Gun Club, the Guns, the Ass Boys, Austin and Colton Gunn. Billy Gunn was kind of the in the middle of all this. He agreed to stay in the back. At one point, the ref took a bump. Austin Gunn came into the ring with one of the tag titles. Billy Gunn came out, took the title from him. He got hit with the other AEW tag title from Colton Gunn. At one point, Anthony Bowens tried to roll up Austin, pushed into the ropes, and hit with a tag title by Colton, which led to the 1-2-3. And somehow, the Guns are the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. And this run just screams transitional champions to me.
I don't know how you take the belts off the Acclaim this early.
Right. They're still very, very hot. Everything's over with them. And of all people, the Guns, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I see them being transitional champions. Like, do they even have like opponents set for them next already, or no? Or,
I would
like,
imagine it's just going to be a rematch against the Acclaim. So one thing I do want to bring up that is kind of interesting. So before the Acclaimed feud with the Guns late last year, they were feuding with FTR. Now FTR's been off TV for the last month. So I'm wondering if this whole thing was done to transition the titles from the Guns to FTR.
that could be the case, but Dax also let it know on his podcast that their contracts are up this spring.
Right.
So, is putting the belts on them a way to try and keep them? Because he did state that, they're looking into, seemingly wrestle on the independent scene as opposed to wrestling on TV for a while.
Right.
At least that's what the talks were last that, he had brought up on his podcast. So I'll be a little curious to find that out.
Yeah. But I could also see it as a case where, you have the Revolution pay-per-view in a few weeks on March 5th. I could easily see them just putting the belts back on the Acclaimed at the pay-per-view. But I don't really see why we have this necessary step where we got to take the titles off the Acclaimed just to throw it right back on them.
Yeah, I don't get that. We've seen AEW likes playing hot potato with the championship, as we've also seen recently with Wardlow, Samoa Joe, and Darby Allin with the TNT championship. That's their hot potato championship. That's like their 24/7 championship. That's like the hardcore championship. Come on.
Right.
I get as fans, we don't have the attention span anymore for long reign champions, which is why everyone hates Roman Reigns. Everyone hates John Cena. Can you imagine if we had to deal with Bruno Sammartino as the world champion for 5 years in 2023? Holy hell, fans would not be able to tolerate it. There would be no professional wrestling if that's the case. God, fans, take your ADHD meds and watch some wrestling and let us have long-term champions instead of this flip-flopping every other week. I can't do it, man, with the championship. It's terrible. The belt's got to mean something. It doesn't mean anything if it's just constantly changing hands.
Right.
You know?
And my thing is with this whole thing, the Guns, they've never been made to be any kind of serious challengers on this show. They've always been portrayed as jokes.
Well, you can thank Danhausen for that.
Well, he's a joke too. So I mean, jokey
Yes,
joke.
boys.
Joke,
Yes,
joke,
boys.
joke.
Monies. Give me monies.
Can we get off the Danhausen shit?
No.
I hope that's
Cursed.
not even cursing me. I hope that just kills
We're cursed.
me.
Cursed. But speaking of AEW, Justin, today was announced they have finally resolved the rating for Fight Forever.
Yes. And we talked about this a few weeks ago as well. So
yes, they were struggling, as we know. They didn't want the game to be MA, which was the way it was looking. However, they were able to apparently get it down to teen. And I'm going to read off the rating summary because it's hilarious.
Oh boy.
Yeah. This is a wrestling game in which players compete in matches with wrestlers from the AEW rosters. Players use punches, kicks, and grappling maneuvers to drain their opponent's health. In some match types, e.g., barbed wire, stadium stampede, unsanctioned, players can use literally barbed wired, baseball bats, metal chairs, and Molotov cocktails against opponents. So you can light your opponent on fire, apparently. Eventually resulting in submission and or knockouts. Blood splatter effects can occur during matches, staining the mats. Video footage of real matches also depicts blood on wrestlers' faces and bodies. The game contains mildly suggestive material, female wrestlers in revealing outfits, e.g., deep cleavage, bunny outfits, partially exposed buttocks, wrestlers performing taunting gestures, e.g., crotch chop, slapping buttocks. Real footage sometimes depicts wrestlers drinking alcohol and smoking. The word shit is heard in the game. So, rather funny description there for the game, Justin. What do you think?
Okay, yeah, I heard about the whole bunny outfit in the description, and that's got to be Allie, the bunny on AEW. I don't know what else that would be.
I mean, it has to. I mean, unless they've got some sort of like Edge Lita Monday Night Raw sex theme role playing where it's a bunny.
Right. I mean, and then the crotch chopping, I would imagine that means Billy Gunn is in this game. If not, the Ass Boys or at least
Ass
the
Boys.
But it's quite descriptive.
Yeah, and speaking of AEW, he finally has a figure coming out, to which I think we'll talk about Saturday, Justin.
Fuck off.
Let's also not forget he is the number one merchandise seller for AEW, ladies and gentlemen. His name is Danhausen.
I hope his figure gets canceled.
He also has his own pre-workout with BPI Sports. He also has his own coffee.
Maybe you should start using his pre-workout.
I don't know if you've noticed, Justin, but I'm slimmer, I'm trimmer, I'm looking.
Stop it right now.
I'm looking like HBK via 92, but I got the shorter hair like it's 2023. And woo wee, I am fine and dandy like sour candy, boy. I'm just a sexy Lee. Sexy Lee. I like to pee in the sea. Pee in the sea. I'm just a sexy Lee. Sexy Lee. I like to pee in the sea. Pee in the sea.
I don't know what is with you in piss play, man. Shawn Michaels is alive and well, and he's rolling in his grave. Jesus Christ.
First off, there's nothing with me with piss play. That's
you seem to talk about piss a lot.
That's for another podcast.
Oh, God.
I'm not being a crybaby piss pants right now. All right. Let's calm it down before this show goes off the rails and is no longer PG-13 and we're rated XXX like Raw.
Yeah, now we're gonna have to fucking fight for a rating like Fight Forever.
Yeah. Don't listen, FCC. Let us be. But speaking of that, we had an incident that hasn't happened in like a really long time. And I'm gonna go back to, you can go to youtube.com/perched on the top rope and listen to Larry Sabisco talk about the lawn dart incident with Rey Mysterio when the Outsiders in WCW came in and attacked the WCW roster to the point that fans were calling 911 and cops were actually sent to the stadium. Justin, we find out something similar happened on AEW Dynamite. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so following his match with Konosuke Takeshita, MJF did a backstage interview, and this man just continues to prove why he's such a great heel. He goes into talking about a story he says Daniel Bryan, or my God, I'm still calling him Daniel Bryan. It's been like 2 years. Oh, give me a sec to regain my composure. Bryan Danielson, excuse me. He tells a story about not having to face diversity. MJF has had to face adversity. He told a story about he was in his junior year of high school. He had a nice blue Camaro. He would drive it around every day, drive it as fast as he could. And, you know, he would rack up points on his license. He was 1 point away from getting his license taken away. Then he talks about one night as junior prom. He goes in and he sees this girl. Her name is Liv. You know what that's a reference to. But he sees Liv. She's the most beautiful girl in the school. He takes her out for a ride in the Camaro. And if at one point it was a very rainy day, raining cats and dogs, he says. And he stomps on the accelerator. When he goes to, hit the brake, he hits the accelerator. They crash into a telephone pole. Wakes up, windshield is smashed. Her head has hit the windshield. He's bleeding all over the place. And then he hears the police siren in the background. And at this point, he's faced with adversity. So you know what he does? You know what kind of man he is? He takes Liv's lifeless body, puts her in the driver's seat, and she's the one who drove, not MJF. That's adversity, Bryan Danielson. That's the kind of man who will do whatever it takes to win. Because it doesn't matter at the end of the day how you do it, as long as the job gets done.
Right.
But it came out Thursday morning that, and I had to pull it up to make sure I had it right, the Nassau Police Department, where MJF is, resides in Long Island, so local, received over 300 phone calls, pretty much making them aware that MJF committed to a felony on national TV. And a statement was released by the police department that they are investigating the claims, but is believed to be a fictional story on the television show. So, MJF continuing to prove what a heel he is.
Absolutely. It just reminded me of that beautiful, beautiful WCW segment. Can you imagine being a fan listening to that and then you call the police? Like,
I mean, you know what? People called the police when Vince McMahon's limo blew up in the parking lot, so some people do it. I guess if you're that into it, good for you, but
I mean, we all know how that worked out because the police were literally called since Chris Benoit killed his wife, child, and
right.
himself the next day, So
Right.
there's that. I don't think I want to end on that note. So, fans, next week on Perched on the Top Shelf, Justin and I will be reviewing the WWF Hasbro Series 4. But this Saturday, you're getting a bonus episode. We are going to talk about new figures that are coming out, figures that have just been released. We're not going to touch too much on the WWE Retros because we are doing a full review of that series after we fully review the WWF Hasbros. I believe Justin and Alex are going to be starting a TNA show together. You can also go and check that out when it comes out. I believe, Justin, I don't even know what you guys are doing. I want you to fill the fans in.
Yeah, so me and Alex are still kind of going back and forth on ideas right now. The plan is to do a watch along on these old TNA pay-per-views, these old TNA shows. We believe it's going to be starting with Lockdown 2006. I feel like that's a good starting point for it. And date is to be determined on that. Still kind of trying to figure everything out, but it'll be up as soon as possible.
Yeah. But also, fans, in the meantime, you can check out Alex every Sunday at twitch.tv/perched on the top rope, where he just finished playing WWE SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I believe he's doing GM mode, so you can catch him there this Sunday again, unless he does it another day, but there's the Super Bowl, but you can go check out that video. It's excellent gameplay. A lot of all sorts of shit happens. It's a fun game from the PS2. You can check Justin, our Perch correspondent, on his own YouTube page at youtube.com/InJustinWeTrust. As you know, he is the Perched. He is the Perched correspondent, and he recently attended Raw XXX. But Justin, I believe you have some other shows coming up, so why don't you let people know what shows you're going to be attending and about your videos?
Yeah, so at the moment, we have a few, I have a few more shows lined up, but Lee's going to be a part of a few of them. Like we have the big horror event in Queens, which is March 11th. Myself and Lee, we will be meeting the likes of Edge and Cody Rhodes and, a few other stars of wrestling today and yesterday. I will also be at the Barclays Center this Monday night for Monday Night Raw, March 12th, because it's the day after big event. I'll be at Madison Square Garden for the Road to WrestleMania house show. And then, Lee, we're going to WrestleMania.
Yes, we are. We will be at WrestleMania 39 Hollywood, folks. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
It's speeding up very, very quick.
Yes, it is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have excellent interviews, unboxing videos, and you can watch a legend like Greg the Hammer Valentine chop me in the chest at youtube.com/perched on the top rope. You can find us at Facebook at facebook.com/perched on the top rope, where we have close to 11,000 likes. You can find us on Instagram at Perched on the Top Rope Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Perched Top Rope. You can find us anywhere and everywhere podcasts are found, from Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, Podbay, Stitcher, Red Circle, you name it, we're there. It's Perched on the Top Rope. And for all of those who have kept us on their chartable top 250s in the wrestling category, we thank you. We have not left Ireland in over 2 years. We're currently rocking in the top 50 in Ireland, the United States. We've been in Canada, Great Britain, Australia, Germany, #1 in Indonesia. Fans, make sure you go and you download all the episodes. It's Perched on the Top Rope. You can find us on TikTok at Perched on the Top Rope, where we post hilarious Selena scenes, where we recreate the greatest moments in wrestling history, including Zack Ryder winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, because you're not going to convince me otherwise that that's not one of the greatest moments in wrestling history. Just like Danhausen appearing on AEW, one of the greatest wrestling moments in history. It's a Selena scene. Says the guy who's buying Danhausen's...
Shut up, stop. We're not getting into that.
Says the guy who's buying Danhausen's new micro brawlers. There, I said it.
I hate you.
And you know what? If that doesn't tickle your fancy, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, from WCW, get humped by a dog. That's right, you heard me. The Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, get humped by a dog. It's pinned on our TikTok at Perched on the Top Rope. Ladies and gentlemen, always remember, spoiler freeze, the way to be. We're out.
Danhausen sucks.